Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Music Den. I'm your host, Armando Venditti. Hoping you guys are having a great day. Ladies and gentlemen, the gang and I are back with another episode of Attack of the Killer Bees. I have with me, along for the ride, Mr. Jim Brecker. How's it going, Jim?
I don't know. I'm kind of scared.
Me too. And the one and only Ken Cheshire, who has moved into a bee colony, basically, for this episode. How's it going, Ken?
I love honey.
I can see that. I can see that.
Are
Enough
you
to get
wedged in a
stung
great
for.
tightness because you love honey so much?
There you go.
Call me
Bloody,
Yogi.
bloody hell. Ladies and gentlemen, as I said, we're back with Attack of the Killer B-sides. And Jim is going to be talking about an album that he feels that side B is, in fact, perfect.
Darn
So,
tootin'.
a killer B-side. So, we're going to be tackling Pretenders Learning to Crawl.
Abso-freaking-lutely. Yeah,
Jim, take it away.
this was released in 84, but has had quite a like a good 18 months of recording that went into it for all kinds of different reasons, mostly due to the fact of the loss, the death of James Honeyman Scott and Pete Farndon from the as part of the original Pretenders Quartet. Um, so there was a lot to kind of prove here. And the proof was already kind of evident because of the two singles that were released prior to this album that were just out of the park home runs. Back on the Chain Gang and My City Was Gone. Both of those absolute killer singles, and I think that the hype was definitely up, and the expectations were high that they'd be able to maintain this level of quality for the record, and they certainly did. So yeah, when this record was released, it definitely lived up to the expectations. And side B of the album, I think, is the one that is the strongest. There's, we I think we did a series called Close But No Cigar. And to me, Learning to Crawl, if I recall correctly, I did put that as part of the series because I thought that there was one track from side one that kept it from being perfect. I know, Ken, I know. We can discuss that later. But we're going to focus on side B, darn it. Side B is the killer. Um, and to me, it starts off really strong with Thumbelina, which is a song that's not like any of the others. Get those bees out of there. Um, Not like any of the others on the album. It's got kind of this um, quick tempo, like country two-step to it.
Rockabilly.
Um, what's that?
Rockabilly.
Yeah, yeah. And it's kind of an ode to many things, but one of the central themes there is Chrissie Hynde talking about her newborn daughter. And that's why the title of this album is Learning to Crawl, because that's what the daughter was beginning to do at the
That's
time.
right. That's right.
Um, yeah, this is a great upbeat, rockabilly track. Thank you, Ken. Um, that has a great deal of passion and really kind of highlights Chrissy's songwriting here. Really strong. Any other comments, guys? I don't want to just kind of go through the whole B-side without giving you
You
guys a
can
chance to weigh in.
you can go through it. I've only heard the B-side once, but I know what you're talking about. And so, in terms of Thumbelina, but no, you can go through it.
Keep going.
The floor is
Keep
yours.
going? Okay, keep
Going.
The
going.
floor is yours.
Um, okay. Next track on side two is the classic My City Was Gone, um, which is just it's hard to really talk about the how good this song is. It's kind of that old trope of, um, you can't go home again. And this song really kind of screams that out loud, where, she's going back to Ohio and things are not what she, thought they would be as she left them. The punk world that she immersed herself in the UK for like the last 5 or 6 years has really kind of changed her perspective for what to expect and what was actually waiting for her there. And it's a real devastating song. And I'm not sure there's probably certain things that are happening in it compositionally or arrangement wise. And Ken, I'm going to be leaning on you to kind of maybe call out what some of those things are, whether it's minor chords or diminished this or something, but it's just a very oppressive, weighty kind of song. Um,
Hmm.
and it's it's a rock and roll classic. Absolutely. If folks haven't heard it, they really need to. Um, Thin line between love and hate. Um, Usually on the Pretenders albums, there's a cover or two, and if not during and if not on the album proper, then as a B-side to a single. But this is just a glorious old soul tune that, Chrissy has tried to make her own, and you've got I believe we have Paul Carrick on piano and vocals on that.
Yep.
And again, it's very different from everything else on the record, and it is a kind of a 180-degree turn in musical tone and thematic tone than what you have with My City Was Gone. Um, but again, another absolutely fantastic tune that fits well within the concept of the album of just kind of moving forward and dealing with different things in life that that kind of come up to smack you upside the head.
Everything.
And I
Yep.
think it's a nice surprise on an album that's already overflowing with wonder. Um, Moving to the penultimate track on side B, I Hurt You is again 180 degrees. We're kind of shifting back to a tone that's similar to what you found on side one with Time the Avenger, maybe, or with My City Was Gone. Again, it's just kind of an Chrissy spitting bile at, a relationship that really kind of floundered. And it's a really strong rockin' track that, kind of has this punk edge, but then a little bit of kind of that rockabilly twang to it as well in some parts.
Yeah. And Chrissy Hind is not known to hold her tongue when she has to.
No.
She says what she wants.
Yeah, shy and demure, those two
No,
adjectives do not apply.
no,
You
no.
okay over there, Ken?
Yeah, I'll be fine.
Okay, that's good. Um, this album ends with 2000 Miles, which has kind of become a Christmas standard. I don't think it was written to sort of be that way, but you know, just because of kind of the lyrical themes that are happening here, the bells are singing, it must be Christmas time, but the thing is all about missing someone that they're gone and kind of longing for them. This and again, it's an outstanding track and is really very emotional and heartfelt. And again, you wouldn't expect this kind of thing after the spit and bile of I Hurt You, but it really works well. This album is just a tremendous um, wheel bag of variety. And every song is executed just in a fantastic manner. And again, there are a lot of people who were kind of like we talked about with the previous episode that we recorded related to A Trick of the Tail, were people who thought, the Pretenders are, they're going to be washed up after this
Yeah.
because of the deaths of those two other, critical band
Members. Yeah.
members.
Yeah.
But again, with My City Was Gone and Back on the Chain Gang, Chrissy was able to kind of say, just pipe down, we got the goods coming, and they certainly
Yeah.
delivered with this.
Yeah.
Um,
And the
2000
track,
miles.
sorry, in the single middle of the road. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, Middle of the Road, I think, was released right as the album was coming out, and that
yeah,
was kind of the third, piece of evidence that this album was just going to be a
yeah,
complete banger.
it's yeah.
Sorry, Ken, I used that word again. But My City Was Gone and Back on the Chain Gang were issued like in some cases a year before
Hmm.
the album came out.
Hmm.
So there was a long run up and expectation that this thing was just going to slay.
Hmm.
And And yes, I'll talk again about 2000 Miles and its Christmas theme, and I just said sleigh. Um, I have a I've seen the Pretenders a couple of times. The first time was for this tour, and um, there was a very fun memory from that show where there was this gal who was in the front row who was just kind of losing her mind and kept kind of screaming a request for 2000 miles. And you know, clearly, and Chrissy's hearing this because she's right in the front row. And it's at some point says, "All right, okay, we'll do 2000 miles." And the girl, just starts losing it. And she kind of wants to start to kind of, crawl on stage and, be part of the action. And security's going, Chrissy's like, "Go away, just come on, girl, come up here and let's have a moment together." And so Chrissy is this gal is hugging Chrissy basically the whole time that she's singing the song, and she's just kind of over emotively, it's like weeping and just really moved and kind of half
Yeah,
dancing around. And it
yeah,
was just a pretty genuine moment that I haven't seen happen in a lot of shows. And to me, it just kind of highlights how Chrissy does like to connect with the audience and make sure that there is, some connection there that's happening and not just people screaming and throwing crap and whatnot,
yeah.
and being disrespectful. Um, this show also had its rough points in the beginning, where in the first two songs, Martin Chambers broke three snare drums. He was playing so hard, and it's kind of like they were almost as like, well, do we have any more snare drums? Can we actually make this show continue?
Yeah,
And so the whole show kind of had this off balance, where is this going to go next feeling? And this
a
gal
danger
coming on
to it.
stage for
Yeah,
2000 miles is kind of a perfect capstone
yeah,
of that.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, that kind of a meandering bunch of thoughts there around side two, but
Well,
to me, it's just absolutely perfect.
well,
Killer
I mean,
as
there's no meandering. I mean, songs bring up memories and thought processes. So there's nothing, wasted about it. I mean, if that's what you're thinking, then that's what, and you feel, that's what you feel. I mean, there's no rhyme or reason to it. So it
well,
is
there
what
we
it
go.
is. It is what it is. All right,
Come out of the
Ken.
hive, Ken. What do you
Ken,
think
any
about it?
thoughts?
Well, um, first of all, I think a lot of credit goes to Chris Thomas for this album as producer.
Sure.
Um, go to the interwebs and look up Chris Thomas and see um, the albums that he's had key influences in production and engineering, and his record stands for itself. And but I haven't done a lot of reading on this album, but I have thoughts.
Hmm.
Um, I think in '84, uh, Christy would have turned 33 years old. Um, she was very close with Honeyman Scott and bassist Farndon. So their deaths, I'm sure, hit her pretty hard. The band was, to my understanding, very very close. And then you talk about the birth of her daughter. There's a lot of big life reality
Changes
tragedy
going on. Yeah,
on
yeah.
her, yeah, in her life at this point. To her credit, she brought in and replaced them with Robbie McIntosh and Malcolm Foster. McIntosh was, which people will recognize from Wings, playing with Paul McCartney in Wings.
Hmm.
Both of them very, very strong players. Um, uh, and like I say, Thumbelina has that strong, um, you can't ignore that rockabilly vibe, on that. Uh, and yeah, I'm not surprised that they went through several snare drums in that concert, um,
Mhm.
because he does not play softly. He gets really into it. But uh, My City Was Gone. This one of the strengths of this song was it did not have McIntosh and Foster on it. They brought in Billy Bremner and Tony Butler. Tony Butler from Big Country,
Yep.
Billy Bremner from Rock Pile and other bands. Um, I would have loved to hear Thumbelina with Billy Bremner on guitar because he is such a excellent, not only an excellent guitar player, but that rockabilly style, he's very good.
Yeah.
Him and Dave Edmunds work so well together, on their guitar stuff.
Mhm.
And so, and the city was gone, you got that strong bass line that runs all the way through it. One of the
Yeah.
amazing things is that the song, which is a tad over 5 minutes long, considering there's basically only two chords in that song. It's amazing what they do with it.
Mhm.
And a lot of that is strictly up to Bremner and Butler, because those guitar breaks and that steady bass, just absolutely, unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, a thin line between love and hate, Paul Carrick. Y'all know I love me some Paul Carrick.
Mhm.
Excellent on piano and covers background vocals on that. This was originally recorded by the Persuaders, and even though it seems almost like a late 50s, early 60s, is actually 1971, so it wasn't really quite that old by
Okay.
the time they covered it here. Um, I Hurt You, um, for all the vile she's spitting out, I would have thought that it would have been more of an up tempo, but it's a mid tempo
Peace.
and just really, really solid sound. And like I
Yeah.
said, the themes of My City Was Gone, Thin Line Between Love and Hate, I Hurt You. These are all very personal songs, even though one of them is a cover. It's still, and I think that was what she was going through at age 33, with so much changing in both her personal life and her professional life.
Yeah.
That's just the way I read it. That could be completely inaccurate in reality, but eh,
Yeah, it just
I'm
kind of
not a
dawned
music,
on me.
I'm not an expert, so there you go. 2,000 miles. Um, I'm not a, I like it. Um, I'm not a huge fan of it. I know it mentions Christmas, but to me, that doesn't make it a Christmas song.
Yeah.
There's always, all the arguments online. Is Die Hard? Die Hard's a Christmas movie. Well, just because it takes place during Christmas
I
doesn't make
don't think it's a Christmas movie. No, I don't even want to go there.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
Is Joni's River a Christmas song? Really? It's kind of been adopted into that. So
it was sure, we're sure.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
of course, the marketing department's not going to argue against that if that's going to be
Okay,
put on
okay,
another compilation or get more
okay.
airplay.
Let me put it this way. I would say River is more of a Christmas song, and then Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Let's put it that way.
Fair enough.
But again, it's all up
Okay.
to interpretation.
Yeah.
But I get what
Um,
you're saying.
yeah. So, but yeah, it's a very, very, very solid B side. I would say the same for the A side. Even though Jim abhors one of the songs on the A side, I think it's a
I
fun
do.
little 2 minute and 45 second track. I won't say it so Jim doesn't get all upset. But yeah, this is a
I'll
very,
tingle in the wrong places.
there you go. But this is a very strong album as a whole. Um,
Yeah, I think this was
yeah,
considered their breakthrough album.
yeah. Um, Armando, you mentioned Middle of the Road, the album opener, incredibly powerful
Yeah,
album opener.
yeah.
Um, And this is another one that probably has one of the best sets as far as strong openers and strong closers of an album.
Mm-hmm.
And and there, looking at it from the perspective of a vinyl album, side two opening with Thumbelina is a very, very strong opener for side two.
Yep.
So so yeah, definitely definitely a killer B-side. And so but listen to it as a whole.
Yes.
That's I
Yeah.
mentioned before. The nice thing about CDs and streaming is you can listen to an album as a single unit,
Mhm.
um, rather than favoring one side or the other. Um, and this
There you
is
go.
maybe one of their most solid albums as a whole. So and they've got a lot of great songs on the other albums too. But yeah, this one particularly stands out. Just like we mentioned in a previous video about Genesis, they had come up to a crossroads with this album.
Mhm.
To follow up, were they going to continue? Could they continue? How successful would that work? And they not only met that challenge,
They surpassed it.
they surpassed it
Yeah.
wonderfully.
Yeah.
Yep.
So many of these songs are just so memorable. I mean, Time the Avenger is also incredible. The bass lines alone on this album are just, the bass riffs and everything are just, they're heavenly.
Yeah.
Mhm. All
It's just
right.
wonderful.
Well, my view on this album, I was saying no the hits, but I have, and to be fair, I have not. I've listened to the B-side once,
Mhm.
and I haven't really gone back to it. But after this discussion and this description, I will be going back to it because I will eventually be doing a. You heard it here, folks. I'm going to eventually be doing a Pretenders album ranking.
Excellent.
So maybe these two gentlemen will come along with me for the ride.
There are a lot of
Uh,
albums there.
oh, I know,
Yeah.
I know. But all we got is time. So I mean, we're
There
going
you
to do
go.
that eventually. So, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Another episode of Attack of the Killer B-Sides featuring the Pretenders Learning to Crawl. Please put down in the comments below your opinion of this album. Did we get it right? Did we miss the plot? Did we miss something along the way? Or are we just talking out the side of our
Hives.
hives? There we
Sure.
go. And again, just give us your opinion. No right or wrong answer, just opinion. And again, we are not experts in music by any stretch of the
Ooh.
imagination. We are just bringing you what we like and what we think that you might like. You know what
Yep.
I mean? No harm in that. So for Frick and Fack, otherwise known as Jim and Ken, I will say goodbye for now. I'm Armando signing off. Click like and subscribe and hit the notification bell to keep yourselves on top of any new content that we have coming up. And please tune in again to see if Ken does survive the beehive. Okay? And we will see you soon with more episodes. Bye for now.